Okay, let's listen to another piece of music here in our Listening Helps series. Okay, now again, if this were an exam, you might want to listen to that passage a little longer to ensure that voices don't come in at some point. But for the sake of this podcast, let's just call it right here. This is instrumental music. No singers. We eliminate the genres of cantata, opera, and oratorio. Now, in one of the other files, I can't remember if you're going to come across it earlier or later than this, but in one of the other files, I walk you through the long way, through each sort of small step of elimination to finally arrive at the correct piece. This time, I'm going to go straight to the, and then in that other file, I give you the shortcut. This go around, I'm going to give you the shortcut right up front. If you can hear that this is 2 violins and harpsichord, then you can narrow down your choice to this piece, Corelli's Sonata in B-flat major, Opus 5, number 2, second movement, Allegro. Because that's the only piece of chamber music on our lineup. Now, I suppose if you wanted to consider the cello suite a piece of chamber music, maybe that's correct because it's for a solo instrument. That's the Bach cello suite. But suites generally aren't. Suite is a genre that can encompass lots of different performance forces, and so a suite by itself is not necessarily a piece of chamber music. It could be played for a small gathering, but other suites need a big concert hall. A sonata, on the other hand, is a piece of chamber music. It is only meant to be played in a smaller setting with a smaller ensemble, and so that's what I mean when I say that if you hear this small ensemble, you're hearing a sonata. And that would narrow it down to one piece, this piece by Corelli. Now, some of us might have a little trouble hearing the difference between this small ensemble and the relatively small Baroque orchestras that play in pieces like Handel's Water Music and Bach's Brandenburg Concertos. I could imagine that some of us, being unaccustomed to listening to orchestral music, might have a hard time hearing the difference between 2 violins and a concerto, and an ensemble with maybe 6 violins and a harpsichord and a couple other instruments. So if that's the case, if you find yourself in that situation, then the process of elimination you need to get into is to ask yourself, what am I not hearing? Now let's just turn this piece back on for a moment. Even if you're having trouble counting the violins, I hope you can tell that there are violins and there's a harpsichord, but there are no flutes, there are no trumpets, there are no horns, there are no drums. So if we can hear the absence of those instruments, or even those families of instruments, if you say, I don't hear any woodwinds, I don't hear any brass, I don't hear any percussion, however you prefer to think of it, you can eliminate a bunch of choices. We already know it's instrumental, so none of the vocal genres. And we've already kind of eliminated the easy instrumental pieces that involve a single instrument, like the organ piece or the cello piece, where it's just that one instrument. We can toss those out right away. But we can say to ourselves, well, I don't hear any trumpets, so it can't be the water music, because that gives prominent place to the trumpets and the French horns. It can't be the Brandenburg Concerto, because that gives a prominent position to the flute in the small solo group. And so right there, we can eliminate several at least a couple of possibilities. When you do that, you find that you really only have two choices. There is the Four Seasons by Vivaldi, the Spring Concerto, Movement 1, Allegro, or there is the Corelli Sonata that I've already told you that that's what this is. How do we tell those two apart? Well, in the Vivaldi Concerto, you're going to hear passages for solo violin. And when I say solo violin, I mean the orchestra drops out, sometimes even the continuo drops out. And it's just the violin really showing off the violinist's skills. Concertos, especially solo concertos, were meant to display virtuosity. They were showpieces. So you ask yourself, once you've got it down to those two pieces, am I hearing that flashy playing? Am I hearing that show-stopping piece? And am I hearing that contrast in the performance forces? Am I hearing it shift from orchestra, big group, to one player? And I think you'll agree that in this piece, there really isn't that contrast. And there isn't the kind of I'm blowing the doors off the place solo showmanship that we hear in both of the concertos on this playlist. So however you arrive at the decision, whether it's by recognizing this is a piece of chamber music and therefore is the sonata and therefore can only be one piece, or whether you work your way through that process of elimination by asking yourself, what am I not hearing? You will, one way or the other, arrive at the answer that this is Corelli's Sonata in B-flat major. So again, you can either tune your ears to a specific single giveaway characteristic, or you can practice that process of elimination. Either way, you'll get to the right answer. And hopefully, that process of elimination will also help you with some other pieces on our list. So best of luck in your studies, and we'll move on to some more help files.